Have you ever received some advice that you know is really important and may even be just what you've been looking for and need, but you still struggle to follow it? Today I wanted to talk about a piece of advice that I've really gone back and forth on, as I know there are areas where I am doing better at it, and I've seen that, but there are also ones where I know I also struggle with it still. So let's discuss it with Advice That Sticks, Episode 2. I remember hearing this piece of advice during an event from well, where one of the speakers was sharing it, and it is actually rather simple. You've got to ask to dit. That's it. Really logical and straight to the point. So, what exactly is my problem with it? I mean, it's not even a new idea. James 4:2 even says, "Yet ye have not, because ye ask not." And the Bible is full of stories basically showing that, of people asking and then receiving. One in particular that comes to mind is of the woman and the judge, where a woman is seeking her just judgment in a sense and wanting justice, and she's constantly going to the judge pretty much every day to just keep asking for it, and eventually he's worn down, so he does give her the judgment she is seeking. And there is probably something in there for why some people may have a problem with fasting, but there also can be one that is somewhat explained in James 4:3, in that it talks about not receiving because of asking amiss, as in there's something wrong with the way you've asked, or your motives behind it. And I mean, how often have we heard of scams, for example, like the Nigerian prince, I think is the real popular one that everyone references, where it's like, give a little bit of money now and it will be well worth it later. Or it's like people who've asked for gift cards, which is something that I have seen, so be very careful when you see that. Plus, there are also other situations where it seems that people only ever want what they can get from us. It's like every conversation with this person is going to lead towards, do you want to join this new program I found? Or I found the perfect investment for you, or this new product, or I have this new thing I'm trying. Or maybe some people will often just be upfront about it with an honest ask for money. So it kind of almost becomes very easy to get cynical about thinking that everyone has some sort of alternative motive when they're approaching you. And since we probably don't want to be seen as being a scammer or mooching off others, we just don't ask for anything at all. There can also be our dislike of being vulnerable with others in play as well, which can be a bit of a rabbit hole, so I'm going to try to lightly touch on it rather than going in deep. Probably will in another video, or maybe make it another series, but because it is dangerous opening ourselves up. So we may instead perform this elaborate dance around the subjects we want to talk about, hoping that someone else will pick on what we're actually trying to say, and then make the first move, put all the risk on themselves rather than us, or kind of read between the lines in a sense, or maybe give voice to what we are trying to say ourselves but don't know how. And another thing is that we could even just continually sigh dramatically. Hoping that someone will ask us what's wrong. So we try in whatever way means we can ask without actually having to ask. This can also be an attempt at trying not to be a burden on anyone. But the thing about asking for something is that it really correlates with the relationship. Sometimes we dread getting an answer of no because we feel like it's a total rejection of us. Except it's generally not. It's just a no. It may even be it's a not now. It's to be later, or maybe it's just they just don't want to do it. It's like inviting someone to an event. They may just not want to go. No fault on you, but there are some things people like and some things people don't like. But anyway, that's probably a sidetrack. But And while sure there will be people who will never like us or say yes to anything we ask, for most people it will often depend on how it's asked. For example, imagine going up to a complete stranger and you're looking for an investment or a loan. You have no references, your credit score is bad, and you have nothing to offer as collateral, so you're just hoping for their generosity. Most people are probably not going to even think twice about saying no to that. But if you went to someone you did know, or you had a history of an organization, or you had the references, a good credit score, and collateral, so they have some way of knowing that you would be good for it, then they might be more willing to say yes. I'm actually in the process of reading this book called Create Your Writer Platform by Csikszentmihalyi. I might be saying that name completely wrong, but in it he talks about this kind of interesting way of getting people to say yes to something. And that you basically tell them what's in it for them. It sounds almost like a selfish way of looking at it, but it's kind of is the process of giving value to someone when you're asking for it. And especially in a low kind of investment relationship that you haven't really had any interaction with someone, it can be just what is needed. It's like kind of, I guess it's kind of the webinar thing in particular where they kind of show you what the trick is. They may not tell you how to do it, but they're kind of giving you all the details in a sense, and then they ask for you to join whatever it is they want. Another example to be that if you wanted to interview someone, you could retort it and then give it to them for their platform as well as your own, or link their socials in the description or whatever, or just make sure that your audience can look at them and their audience may be able to look at you. So again, it's kind of that whole thing about collaboration. And then this is not about what you are willing to do. It's like a simple thing would be like, oh, someday I'll thank you in my acceptance speech. It's like, that isn't really worth much in a sense. It's that it's about what you are doing now for them, or what you can do now for them. It's like, oh yeah, I can promote you this way, and this way, or I can give value to you this way and this way, this way. It's not putting it off into some distant what if future. And then, since asking is associated with relationship, it can sometimes be just the fact that we are simply asking people something that builds it. It's like showing the vulnerability and the courage and the trust in the relationship. It's kind of like prayer in a way, in that for a Christian, there's a belief that God already knows our hearts and our desires of it. But since it's a relationship he desires, he wants us to ask for the things we want. He wants us to come to him and have the relationship, spend the time, and build the relationship. And to also learn what he wants, or his plans. So I guess the best way to end this off is to ask, what is something that you have been afraid to ask for? And if there is something, why not share in the comments below? And since the worst thing that can generally happen is that they would say no, maybe we can then encourage you to ask for it. As for me, to be honest, I've had it kind of drilled into me that I'm not really a salesperson at all. So I almost have this mental block on making offers of any sort and promoting myself in general. It's like I'd rather just speak it into the wind or throw a message in a bottle than actually go up to someone and ask for something. But since I'm working on changing that, I wanted to share something with you in that years ago I wrote a short sci-fi novel called Mykal Orion and the Station of Thieves before I went on this roundabout journey of self-discovery I've been on. And it's probably actually to become the person who actually is able to promote their works. And anyway, there will be a link to its Amazon page in the description if that sounds like a book you would like to check out. So in closing, I'm Jonah. You've been watching Lions Mane Media, where we talked about stories and what they teach us about life, and often the life lessons we've learned from our life stories. So talk to you later, and have a great rest of your day.